Can I have the screens on, please, Jason? So, good morning. We're going to read from Philippians chapter 2, verses 1 and 2, and then chapter 4. If you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if you've any comfort from his love, any fellowship with the Spirit, any tenderness, any compassion, make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and in purpose. Should be another verse, hopefully. It says about brothers and sisters. Therefore, so the Greek, we can use the inclusive version, it's a plural masculine. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, you whom I love and long for, my joy and crown, this is how you should stand firm in the Lord, dear friends. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I remember when I was in infant school, no idea how old I was, but I was small. We were in Austria. We were at the base of a mountain. There was a cable car. There was a cable car going up, and we were at a pie shop, and there was a glazed strawberry pie with custard on it. And my eyes lit up, and I was like, I wanted that. And my mum and dad and the shop owner said, we're going to go up the mountain, then we're going to come back down, and you can have this pie. I wasn't very interested in the mountain. I was interested in the pie. So we go up the mountain, we do all those things. We come back down, we go to the cake shop where the owner promised the cake would be there. My parents had promised the cake would be there, and the cake was not there. And I lost it. I can still remember just exploding with fury. He had told me it would be there. You had told me it would be there. And I completely lost it. Now, my parents are actually really smart parents, good parents, but they made a fatal error. They tried to reason me out of my fury. We went up the mountain, we came back the mountain, it's not there. I didn't care. Because they promised, and reason when you're 6 doesn't matter. And there was a part of my brain that knew I was losing. Because I can still remember this. So, I used to go, I had a time where I went to a psychotherapist, and they were going, you should do psychotherapy because you just notice yourself. But there was a bit of me, even at 6, goes, I'm losing here. But the angry part of me took over. So the result for me was no cake, no pie, unhappy and miserable. My parents' result was a kind of ruined moment, but of course they got over it very quickly, but I can remember it. I didn't want reasons. I needed 2 things, consolation and some smart parenting. Okay. To use the language that Pete has been using, I was in disorientation, okay? I was disorientated, I was confused, I was struggling, and I needed someone to be with me in my troubles. If you've not yet had children, and you're just here for a while, the key thing to remember about the terrible twos is you can't reason a child out of the terrible twos, you just have to be with them and help them back to joy. So there's some smiling dad over there. That's our job. We cannot fix emotions. You can go with people. But interesting, as adults, we're thinking today about comforting relationships in unsettling times. We're thinking about being together, and we've had that nice consultation. Well, the really interesting thing about Sunday mornings at the minute is mostly the people who didn't talk to anyone in church before lockdown haven't come back. Because you come back to church, if you've got 5 or 6 connections, you often come back. If you've only got 1 or 2, you don't come back. So actually, it's an interesting point that actually we're all quite happy to connect, something we noticed today. But the thing is, this week we're thinking about comforting relationships with each other in unsettling times. And next week we're looking at comforting relationship with God in unsettling times. So here we go to our reading, Jason, if you could flip that back on, thank you. So our Bible reading said this, the slide 3, thank you very much. If you have any, it's the left-hand column to start with. If you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, tenderness and compassion, then the right-hand column. Then make my joy complete by being like-minded. It's really quite noisy at the back. I think we might be beginning to lose it a little bit. If we can, a little bit struggle there. But my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Now, the Greek speaker in me goes, oh, it's a very interesting passage, because they're parallel. If you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, be like-minded, comfort from his love, have the same love, common sharing in the Spirit, being one in the Spirit, tender and compassion of one mind. So it's very interesting, the parallels. There's an upward relationship with God that's expressed in a horizontal relationship with each other. But of one mind is not a cognitive reasoning thing. It is of tenderness and compassion. And that is the totality of what we're thinking this morning. That of one mind with each other is being tenderness and compassionate with each other, but equally we receive from God in order to give it. So when it was the peace service, I had that picture of, as a church, we are like an oasis with the town, and then there's an aqueduct that flows from the oasis to the town. If we don't spend time with God, we've got nothing to bring to our community. Church so often becomes a miserable place, and then when we go out, we've got nothing to give because we've got no water to feed the town. We're supposed to be with God, which is what we'll look at next week, maybe Psalm 23 or maybe Exodus, in order to feed our town. But we're not just to do it as individuals, but we're to do it together. There's a left-hand vertical uniting with God and then a right-hand horizontal outward connection with each other. Now, disorientation with God has been our recent theme. Over the past few weeks, we've talked about that. With disorientation, what we're doing. I was disorientated this morning. We are leaving quite quickly at the end of this service because currently there is water flowing from our bathroom through the electrical system, through the lights in our garage. So as I stand here, I'm slightly disorientated because I'm kind of thinking, my son's at home. If we're going up in smoke, at least he's there. Maybe the plumber will arrive. We all have moments of disorientation when we're in one place and we're thinking about another. And it is a disorientating time. What will happen in Ukraine? Food prices are up. Gas prices are up. Fuel prices are up. Work is different. Town is different. Family is different. Church is different. It is different. And in times when lots of things are different, then often our relationships can fragment. Because do you know what I mean? We're pulled all over the place, and our relationships just bear the brunt of that. And the thing I would say is, in our disorientation, we spend time with each other. Have the next slide. When things are tricky, don't try to fix everything. Be with each other. Quite a few people of us here are married or in relationships. Gottman, they're my favourite marriage researchers, will say 2/3 of conflict in marriage are not solvable, only 1/3 are. So when things are tricky, don't try and fix everything. Make your focus on being with each other. In work, we generally have to sort things out. If we can, that's often our job. In our relationship, our primary job is to being with each other. I've done it in small writing. Can you keep that? Can you go back? Thanks, Jason. Sorry to be blunt, but this is for me, not for you, because I know the writing's too small. Make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and mind. He doesn't say, make my joy complete by fixing everyone and fixing everything. That just doesn't exist. And when we first become Christians, oftentimes our concept, or people's concept, is God will come into my life and fix my problems because God answers prayer. So God answers prayer, so he does fix some problems. And then we think, oh, God can fix all problems. But that's not how it works. God often will help us and wants to journey with us, but he wants to be with us, but he also wants us to be with each other. And he's not someone who fixes all of our problems. Sometimes in our relationships, it's more important to stay emotionally connected than it is to determine where you are going. If your boat capsizes, and you're out in the water, and you first want to get floating on something out of the water, but then you want to be connected to other people around you. Otherwise, the currents can take you in different directions. And that's true in our relationships. That okay, we need to get ourselves floating, but we need to stay connected, and then start going, where are we going? My grandfather was once caught in a rip current, pulled out. And you don't, you think you want to go over there, but you have to go sideways to get there in a rip current. So here's where we return to my angry Austrian glazed pie moment. So I was a child in that angry Austrian strawberry pie moment, and my brain was not functioning well. My relational circuits were overheating. And imagine you've got a dimmer switch in the back of your heads. When the switch is fully on, you engage relationally, you're connecting, you're the happy you, which is also relationally connected. Okay, and you're connecting with people. At other times, when your family might say, well, you got on the wrong side of bed this morning, your switch may be completely off. You are switched off, as we might say, disconnected. You're not effectively processing your life experiences, but you're in a reacting frame of mind. And group therapists I used to know would call that you're relationally driving drunk. You don't even notice how badly you're doing so badly, you're relationally driving drunk. Some of us are always relationally driving drunk, and we're careering around the place, and everyone's going, what is he doing? What is she doing? And it's only when we get sober we suddenly realise what's going on. And then when the switch is partly on, you've lost, you're halfway there, you've lost that ability to be most relational and most creative, but you're kind of just getting through. Now, noticing our relationality, our relationships, is the key to success in many parts of work. It's the key to success in relationships. And like as Christians, we say we need to love one another. But for me, this is often that we often don't think about, well, how do I notice how I'm doing? And this is the most useful thing to do it. Now, the next slide has quite a lot of words on it. I'm really trying to take as many words out, but I can't. Do you want to maybe take my picture out? So I want to go back to this and go, when I was screaming at a 6-year-old, I did not want to listen to my parents at all. I just wanted for that problem to go away. I was actually locked on, the last one, to pie. I was locked on, I wanted that pie. Now there's a little bit of me accepted another pie would have been good, but it was stuck underneath everyone else. I was just ready to fight. Do you know what I mean? If I was older, I'd have been like, that's what I was at. I wasn't listening. I didn't want to be connected to my parents. I was kind of in fight, and I was locked on. Now, I wonder, when you are overwhelmed, what you lock onto. People close to me lock onto, I don't know, chocolate. Or maybe Xbox, or maybe a soap. I wonder who that might be. What do you lock onto when you are overwhelmed? Relationships, porn, any behavior, experience, events, purpose, or person or substance you can lock onto. Some people's antidote for this is to be angry, because it just gives them a boost. I wonder, when you start stopping being relational, what do you lock onto? Or which of these do you do? Which is your favourite? I know someone who just goes, like when they're overwhelmed, you have to look at my family, it's not my family, they just go, that's enough, and their hands go up. And they do this because they don't want to listen anymore, because they're getting overwhelmed. And so the first thing I'd say is about being relational with one another in times of overwhelm is we just need to notice ourselves. Like the mindfulness movement, that's basically talking about noticing ourselves. So lad fail is a just really useful little thing. If you want that, you can take a picture, you can download it off our blog. I didn't print it out this morning, didn't have time, too many troubles around and about. I'll show you that at the end. But I use this all the time. For 3 months, I just went around thinking about this stuff. And you start seeing it. You start noticing when people aren't listening, and you think, there's no point trying to connect at this moment. Because if someone's relational circuits are off, there's no point having a discussion. Okay? And you need to turn them on again. Now, I remember I taught this to Ulrika about 3 years ago, and the first question she asked is, well, how do I turn them back on again? So let's look at carbs. No, not your favourite carbs. Another kind of carbs, Andy. How we get relational can be one of these. Okay? Or it could be all of them. I wrote a gratitude journal because in lockdown we had to move house, and my dad was sick in and out of hospital, and it was chaos everywhere, and I just felt I needed to do appreciation, and I did that every day for 6 months, and it just changed me. So that's the second one, A, for appreciation. Some people find just being with people who are calm, that helps them get their relational circuits off. Other people just don't want that at all. They want rest. Just need a little bit of personal space. Your brain takes 25 minutes to calm down. Sometimes we just need a little bit of space. The B can be exercise. When I had PTSD, I used to go running. Could be getting out into nature. It could be to breathe. So I looked at Lorna this morning. She runs the Medici. Lots of people coming in completely stressed. And I said, when you want to react, just before you react, just breathe and take 5 seconds. And that can just change how you interact. And she just looked at me and nodded. She just wishes that everyone in the queue for the doctor's surgery just breathed and relaxed. Okay. And the last one is what we'll look at next week, which is synchronizing with God. Now, these things help us to switch our relational circuits back on. Now, question for you is this. So in my story, my dad tried to reason with me, you know. My dad's a scientist, just far too bright. Bad mistake. I just exploded in fury. What could they have done? So we're not criticizing my parents. I mean, look at me. They brought me up perfectly. What could you do? Your child is exploding. There's no right or wrong answer. What might we do? Just curious? Nothing. Stay silent. Anyone got any idea? Get another pie. Yes. Don't tell them you're going to get another pie, which is what my parents did. Let me get you another pie. I'm like, no, don't get me another pie. The little bit in my back of the head was, get me another pie. So they could have got me another pie and given it to me half an hour later. Smart move. That was first thing. That was actually one. I would say they just needed to let me explode and rest and not give me logical answers. If I was ready to be hugged, they could have hugged. But if I was ready and just being with me, so sorry, you know, just being with me until I calmed down, and then gave me a pie. So if you'd like to read more on that kind of parenting, there's a really short book. It's only a £5. The 4 Habits of Raising Joy-Filled Kids. It's a really smart book. And that's one. I'm going to put some reading up because Lent's coming up, and I know in Lent we often like to read. I'll do a little book once a week. So that's one nice thing for a £5. Let's just go to our last slide, and then the carbs. That's one. So carbs help. So being with me could have helped me. Now, why do I tell that story? Many people around us are overwhelmed, but they don't know how to notice it. A lot of people are living life in total overwhelm. And the previous slide, the lad fail slide, can just help us notice it. Well, this can just help us switch on. If we calm, then they calm. Okay. So in our last slide, we just come back to our Bible study, where Paul says, if you have any encouragement, then be like-minded. If you get comfort from God's love, have the same love. Comfort other people. That's the synchronizing. That's resting with people. If common sharing in the Spirit, be one in spirit. Don't try to fix everything, but be with people, being tender and compassion and of one mind. My issue with the Christianity that I was brought up with was I was told many times, like you'd read in the confession, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind and strength, love your neighbour as yourself, Lord we haven't, sorry. But they never really get me to notice how I was loving and how I could love and how I could switch back onto that. And I think what I'm saying is we often can't do it. And then we beat ourselves up. I can't do that. And then we go around in circle, well, we ought to be able to do that, and preachers don't know what to do. Often it's this carbs thing helps us switch back on. Getting some rest. Just breathing, getting our body, synchronizing with someone, showing appreciation. Those things help us get relational. And then that's what helps Christianity to work. They're all in the scriptures, but we've never really brought them out. And so my thought for you this week is maybe if you want to take my picture off for a minute, so anyone can do the QR code, that would be helpful. Jason, I'm going to remove my picture. So if you want to use those cards, I've stuck them on my blog because it was easier than trying to get them on the church. I don't know how to do that. So you can go to the blog or you can scan the QR code and just download the one for relational circuits or carbs and put it on your phone. Because that's our calling, is to love our neighbour as yourself, but we often can't. And by doing it, that's how we can have comforting relationships in unsettling times. We live in unsettling times. Let's seek to bring comfort into our relationships. Let's pray. So, Lord, you created us, and we're grateful for the lives that we live, the relationships that we have, the people around us right now. And Lord, as a church, as individuals, as workers, as retired folks, as children, as teens, wherever we are, we pray that you help us in unsettling times to be people of comfort, people who share comfort, and people who are with you in these unsettling times.